Hello and welcome to the For Parents Like You podcast. My name is Hilda-Joy O'Connor, and on this podcast, we will be talking about all things to do with parenting. Being a parent is one of the most important roles you can ever play in the life of another human being. Let's be honest, there is nothing more fulfilling than to see our children grow up in love, compassion, and empowerment. But the process of getting them to this stage can be very difficult. On this podcast, we will be discussing ways of how to equip parents like you and me to become more effective and purpose-driven. Thank you so much for joining me as we dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to the For Parents Like You podcast. I have a special guest, Kami, a very good friend of mine, whom I came into contact about, is it 4 years ago, at El Shaddai Church. And she's a mother as well as I'm a mother, and she's doing amazing big things. And I just thought, let's just get her on the show just to, share some experience of motherhood and what she's up to. Basically, Kami is not just a mother, but she's also a businesswoman. But before I give you all the gist, I would love to introduce Kami, and I would love Kami to just tell us a little bit of things that she does. So Kami, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Hilda. Honestly, it's such a pleasure to be on someone else's podcast for.
Yay!
And seriously, I love your podcast. I've loved the episodes that you've put out, and it's an honor to be a guest on your show today.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I really do. So Kami, can you let us know what are you doing? Because you are not just a mom, but you are also a businesswoman.
What am I doing? Oh gosh, there's so many things going on. So yeah, like you said, I'm a mum. I've got a son who's 4 years old, and my main sort of job, my 9 to 5, I'm a regional sales manager. So I work for a bank. So I sort of deal with motor finance. That's my 9 to 5. But on the side, I have my own podcast that comes out bi-weekly. So it's called the Mummy and Mind podcast, which is solely about talking about motherhood and mental well-being, and just having open discussions about the mental health aspect of being a parent, just trying to build better relationships in the family as well. And I recently, it's coming up to a year now, a year ago, I set up a fashion management agency, which is based in Ghana. So we look after brands and models and designers, and we hold events. So I'd say in essence, we would create a whole fashion show from start to finish for an event or someone that's looking to host anything fashion related. And yeah, we do it in Ghana. So we'd had our first event during the year of return, which was great. COVID has obviously put a pause on things for this year, but definitely we'll be continuing with more events moving forward.
Every single time that you spoke just now, Kami, I just kept on smiling because I just love how driven you are as a mom, but also as a businesswoman. How do you balance both business and motherhood?
You know what? It is literally the grace of God. That is the only way I can describe it, because as you know, Hilda, you've got more kids than me. The energy, like sometimes you can wake up in the morning and you're filled with so much energy. You've got so many things in your head and plans, and then probably after 2 hours, your energy levels just drop. But I feel like when God has called you to do something, or it's something that He needs doing, He will give you the strength to finish it off. And one thing for me is just having really, really supportive family and a partner that just gives me that flexibility to explore different things, to have the time to myself to plan stuff, and help out with our son. That's been a real, I'll say that's one of the main things for being able to balance being a mother and doing other stuff outside of parenting.
That's good. I also relate to that because like you said, having a supportive family and a supportive partner helps you to be able to do what you're doing. For me, I found my husband extremely supportive.
Mm.
Motherhood can be so challenging and
Oh
so
yes, 100%.
draining.
Yeah,
I don't think
100%.
anyone who is not in the same position or season as we are can understand the extent. I mean, they look cute by looking
Yeah,
at them, but the process of, caring for them, it's hard work. And on top of
100%.
that, managing different projects and working full time like yourself, it's not easy and it can be quite hard to balance. But having that support network, helps to, be able to share some of those responsibility now that you can do your own things, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so important. When I found out I was pregnant, my partner he said from day one, anything that I want to do, he's gonna support me, because I think there's that narrative of when you get pregnant as a woman, the man can sort of continue his life, and the woman has to, let her dreams go or put it to one side till the kids are a bit older. And he's not been a believer in that narrative, and he, as he wants me to be successful as well as himself. So he knows that there's a part that he wanted to play to help me feel that way, and just really make sure that I didn't feel like I was missing out, or that we're just sharing the responsibility as parents should do.
That's really good. You mentioned something that I wanted to just go back on. You guys conversated and agreed together, like before when you were pregnant, that this is
Yeah,
what you're going to do, and he was supportive in that. And I think for parents like us, it's really important that we understand and are in the same page. Because using me as an example, I didn't really know I didn't really have a holistic picture of what I was called to do. I thought that I was
yeah,
just called to be a parent and that's it. But after getting into parenthood, I began to feel that I was kind of losing myself. That's because
mm,
there was certain passions and certain desires that I wanted to fulfill, and I thought that, having children was holding me back from fulfilling those
yeah,
desires. But if I'd known what I know now, and I think I would have had that, important discussion with my husband that, these are my desires. How can we, be able to manage this as well as being able to look after our children? So sharing that responsibility.
yeah,
Because I remember in the beginning, like my husband was going to work every single day, sometimes 12 hours a day, and I was stuck at home just managing the children and looking after them myself. And it really
that's another job
caused
in itself.
it really caused a mental instability within myself,
Mm,
because I wasn't fulfilling me. I was just 24/7 motherhood, and that's all I knew. But thankfully,
yeah,
with this COVID situation, it's really helped to push me to, saying, Hilda, you need to pick up your feet and you need to run forth and achieve whatever you have inside of you. And I have no excuse now because husband's home 24/7. So again, we can
no,
speak.
honestly,
Yeah.
when you announced that you were doing your podcast, my heart just jumped, because I
Is
said,
it
you
a
know
jump?
what?
That's good.
Yeah, because just it's like the conversations we've had. Obviously, I've known you for a couple of years now, and the conversations we've had is never been an empty conversation. The wisdom that you give, and so knowing that you were now starting to do your own podcast and interview people and give snippets of your life or things that you've gone through, I definitely feel has always been needed. And the fact that coronavirus, as awful as it is, it's also giving you opportunity to explore that. And I think it's really good to see that you've been able to push through with the podcast.
Thank you. That's so encouraging for me. Just going back a bit, with regards to pregnancy,
Yeah.
how was your pregnancy and your birth?
Oh gosh, so 4 years ago, but it feels like yesterday. I remember, when people say to you, oh, after you give birth, you forget about it. Now I remember
No.
it all. It's been 4 years and I still remember it. But I think for me, so it might be slightly different from you because my pregnancy wasn't planned and I wasn't with my partner at the time. So it was a big shock in a way that where I always knew I wanted to be a mum, but I always wanted to be successful first. So I was in a position where I'd just been promoted at work. I, was earning good money, and my next stage in life was to continue earning good money, buy a house, get married, and do those things in that order. So finding out I was going to be a mum really snowballed me, and it had a really drastic effect, I would say, mentally for me, because I was trying to still pursue being successful, but not also accepting that I am going to be a mum. And so that battle was really hard for me. So I think that took its toll on my pregnancy to the extent that I didn't enjoy it at all, because you sort of resent what's going to happen. So in my head, I was thinking, okay, I'm pregnant. I've got basically 9 months to try and accept that I'm pregnant, but I didn't want to. So it was a constant battle. And then just where I was working as well, I was a manager. So I was managing a team of about 6 or 7 people that were quite difficult to manage at one time. And being pregnant and having your own issues outside of work, trying to then come into work and show face, all of these things, I think eventually when I got to about 7, 8 months, it just really hit me and I had to leave. I was meant to go on maternity leave a month before I was giving birth, but I actually left 2 months before, just because I just couldn't take it. I said, what, I just need to relax. I need to rest. I need to just, try and enjoy it, maybe at least the last 2 months of my pregnancy without being stressed. And then I think the first day of my maternity leave. So I left work on a Friday, had the weekend, and then the Monday of the first day of my maternity leave, I got really sick. I remember it was around 11 o'clock in the morning. I'll never forget. And I heard like a really loud, like buzzing sound in my ear. And then all of a sudden everything went really quiet. And I was at home by myself. So again, I didn't know what was going on. So I called my partner and he said, maybe you should call 111. Like, he doesn't know, he's not a doctor. So I should call 111, because at this point I could only hear from one ear. So I called 111, told them what was going on. They said, sometimes during pregnancy, people can lose some of their hearing sometimes. So we would advise that you go to A&E within the next sort of 4 to 6 hours. So I was at home on my own. And at this point, I wasn't driving either, because I was like 8 months pregnant, 7.5 to 8 months pregnant. So waiting for my partner to finish work. We went to A&E. And the doctor looked in my ear and just said, you know what? He's never seen something like this before in terms of in late pregnancy, but all he can do is maybe refer me to ENT. So that's ear, nose and throat. But because they're closed at this moment, because it was the evening, he gave me a dose of steroids and told me just to take this. It's probably my nerves are inflamed and the steroids might help. And then I'll get a call in the next couple of days from the ENT for them to have a look at my ear. At this point now, we're about 8 hours into the day and my hearing had completely gone in my left ear.
Wow.
And I had a continuous ringing sound in my right ear. So in the following day, I got a call from ENT. So I went down to the hospital, had a hearing test, and I'd lost literally 90% of my hearing in my left ear. And no one was able to tell me why. And because I was heavily pregnant, I couldn't have a MRI scan or anything to sort of give them assurance of what's going on. So they would just said to me, there's the only option is to either have the scan, which they don't recommend at all because I'm pregnant, or wait till I've given birth and it might just be a side effect of pregnancy and then my hearing will come back. So the last sort of 2 months of my pregnancy was just really stressful because I'm on maternity leave, but I can't hear. I can only hear from one ear, don't know what's going on, hoping that when I give birth, my hearing will come back. So then, but I think I got used to it. After 2 months, I'm more focused on the fact that I'm about to give birth. So got a bit excited about that. And my labour was hilarious because I always said I'm going to have a 3-hour labour. I said, you know what, look, God, you love me so much. You're not going to want me to go through any pain whatsoever. So my labour's going to be 3 hours. We've cut a deal, God. So, you've got to follow through with it. So I was on the phone to my friend and then I started getting contractions. I said to my friend, oh my God, my labour started. I'll chat to you in 3 hours when the baby's here. Fast forward 72 hours.
Wow, 72 hours.
72 hours, so 3 days of labor. Oh my gosh, it was
Wow.
horrendous. The pain was crazy, and I didn't take any drugs. So it was a crazy situation. But after 3 days, my son came. He was 1 day after his due date, but no, he came and he was perfect. Like at that moment, everything that was going on, all the stress, everything from my hospital appointments, from work, my pregnancy, I just forgot all of it at that moment because he's finally here. And then yeah, so that my actually delivery of Isaiah, my son, was amazing. Words can't. I think every mum experience everything you go through. Once the baby's here, you just sort of forget about it at that moment. But then obviously fast forward, baby's here now, so they look into my ear. Then it turns out that I'd caught MRSA
What's
during my
that?
pregnancy. Yeah, so I caught the virus. So it can attack different parts of your body. I don't know to exactly where, but the type of virus or MRSA that I had attacked the nerve in my ear, so it killed the nerve. So that basically meant that I lost my hearing and it wouldn't come back because there's only a short window if you catch MRSA that they can give you a particular medication that could save the nerve. But because I couldn't have a scan, they didn't know what was wrong. They couldn't give me that medication. So the nerve has completely died. So I never did get my hearing back from that. But that was for me like the hardest part of my pregnancy. Just obviously going through that and still living it really, to be honest.
So, so you can't hear in one ear now. You can only hear in the
Yeah,
other.
so basically 90% hearing loss in my left ear, but my right ear works perfectly fine. So, and the way that the body works is if one part isn't working, the other one will overcompensate. So my hearing
Oh,
in my right ear is, absolutely fantastic. But
wow.
obviously my left ear, so it is challenging. The first year was really hard trying to adapt because obviously I've spent at that point 25 years, 26 years of my life with hearing normally. So having to lose my hearing was quite hard to adapt to. But it's been 4 years now, so I'm pretty much used to it, to be fair.
Do you have to wear like an hearing aid or?
So I have a hearing aid, but they didn't give me a hearing aid until a year after I lost my hearing. So at that point, I got so used to not using one. So when they did give it to me, it was a really hard transition. So I don't really wear it because it's just it's uncomfortable, and I don't think I really need it that much, to be fair.
Okay. And during this time that you were going through all this with your hearing loss, what sort of help did you receive?
So with my hearing loss, looking back now and the knowledge I have of just how mothers or when you're pregnant, how doctors treat you, or how they take how serious your symptoms can be. Looking back now, I definitely think they didn't take me as seriously as they should have. Had they, maybe they potentially could have saved my hearing. I don't know. But at the time, I didn't get any real care, to be honest, when it came to my ear. It was just wait till the baby's born and we'll see what happens. So that was something that I just had to sort of carry myself, and obviously my family were there to support. But again, because it was so rare and no one had ever heard of it all, people just didn't. It just didn't make any sense. So I'd tell people, "Oh, I've lost my hearing," and people would say, "What? That's really weird. That's really bizarre." But because it's not something that you hear about or the symptoms of pregnancy, no one could really relate. So I really struggled with it because internally, like I know I have a disability in a way, but it's not a visible disability. So no one really understands, or they don't get how it makes me feel. Or like sometimes I can be in a room and there's so much noise I can't hear everything, or I have to position myself strategically in different locations to make sure that I can hear the conversation, and things that I have to do but people aren't aware of because everyone else tends to have normal hearing. So with that, I would say it's uh education thing in terms of if someone is going through something, if people don't really can't relate to it, it's sort of not seen as something that they need to bear in mind. And I felt like that. I felt quite lonely in that aspect when it came to losing my hearing. I didn't think people understood how serious it was to me as the person that's going through it.
Mm, mm. Wow. I didn't even know that this was the extent of what you
Yeah, no, do you know what? I think for
go
me,
through,
because
Alan.
I have hearing in my right ear, and it's such a long conversation because people have so many questions. I don't tell people. I've been to places and known people for the last 4 years, and they would never know that I can't hear in my left ear because I don't talk about it. I don't wear my hearing aids, so it's not visible. And but there'll be times where if I can't lip read what you're saying as well as hear what you're saying, I just say pardon. After I say pardon twice and I still can't hear, I just pretend I've heard and carry on with the conversation.
Okay, okay, wow. But it's you're just so amazing. Like, irrespective of this situation that you have, like you are still able to just see the bright side of life, and you're just carrying on, just pursuing purpose and not allowing this disability to stop you from being the best mom that you can be and the best, business lady that you are. And I just find it so amazing just how positive you are, and your
It's
aroma
not been
is just
easy. I think now, 4 years down, like, definitely positive. But I do have my days, which is why I started my podcast because I just realized, wait a second, there's not just because of my hearing, but just motherhood in general hasn't been easy. And I'm thinking, I definitely can't be alone in this. So doing my podcast has really been a healing process for me as well because interviewing other mums and they obviously reveal their story to me, it gives you sort of comfort in knowing that there is no such thing as a perfect mum and all mums go through challenges, whether it's through a disability or injury or trauma or something, but every mum has gone through something. And I think it's just understanding that helps you then know that, okay, there's nothing wrong with me, or it is normal to feel this way, but you can still excel in life, you can still accomplish stuff.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's good. I remember when I first was pregnant with my first child, Naraya. It was exciting. It was planned. But the process of carrying her was beautiful, but yet again challenging.
Mm.
Why it was challenging for me was that I didn't have like close family support network around me. So I
Yeah.
felt that I had to journey that pregnancy alone with my husband. Well, I think my twin sister was around as well. But yeah, I felt quite sometimes disconnected with her because I wanted to be happy with my mom and dad right next to me,
Yeah.
and having that shoulder to lean on, apart from my husband, at the times when I felt sad and I felt lonely, but I didn't have a mom. My mom had died. So it was very hard for me as a new mom and a new wife experiencing um,
Loss.
a loss, basically, a loss of support.
Mm.
So it was difficult for me, but I found that going back to work, which was the opposite case for you, you wanted to
Yeah.
leave
I
earlier
wanted to run
than
away,
you were
run away from
exactly.
work.
But for me, going back to work helped me to take my mindset from focusing so much on that loss, and it
Yeah.
helped me to pursue purpose. Um, yeah, and I found that really, really enjoyable. Yes, my work was quite challenging. I was a TA to a young girl who had autism. And so I had to be following her up and down, helping her with her coursework. So I was basically her one to one support. And this girl's disability, I think it was more than autism. It was quite serious and quite challenging for me as a new mom. But do you know what? I really enjoyed it because I just felt that I was adding purpose to someone's
Yeah.
life. And that helped me to just have a more stable mentality. But after birthing my little girl, I had a very traumatic afterbirth. My placenta got stuck, which meant that I lost about, I think, 1.5 liters of blood. So I was very
Wow.
close to a blood transfusion. and I was so weak. I had suffered with an anemia, and it was very, very traumatic. And on top of that, my husband and I moved to his parents' house um, a week after my little girl had been born. So there was so much transition that was going on
Mm,
around me and inside of me that I didn't really have that headspace to grieve the loss for my mom,
yeah.
not having a mom there with me, and to grieve the fact that my body is going through trauma, giving birth to this child. And I kept silent. I didn't really share my struggles with people.
Yeah.
And I would say suffering in silence is a very dangerous thing, very, very dangerous.
100%.
And I wouldn't advise that for anyone, but it really had a toll on me. I was very, very unhappy how things had turned out. And top of that, my husband was working in order to, make some income from us. So I didn't really have him next to me on a consistent base. And I felt that even being at the family home, that I was mothering alone without the
Yeah.
parental support that I really wanted. There were times that Harai was just crying constantly, and I didn't know what to do because I was like, "This child is crying. What should I do? um, I need help." But there were nights that I was just in tears. I was literally crying whilst this child was crying in my arms until she went to bed.
Oh,
And
I've been there. Trust me, I've not the same situation as you, but I've been there where
Mm.
when my son was born, he was born during the Easter holidays. So went home the following day, and family member after family member were coming to visit us for the first 2 weeks. Everyone was off, it was half term. So for me, this was great. I was having long salt baths. I was able to have naps because everyone was at home watching him. And then after 2 weeks, everyone went back to work, and my son's dad had finished his is it when the man is it I can't remember what it's called, paternity leave, sorry, he'd finished. So I went from having so many people around me to everyone going. And I remember I woke up one day and everyone had left the house, and I realized, oh my gosh, I haven't showered. I can't shower because who's going to look after the baby? And all of these things I hadn't experienced in the first 2 weeks of giving birth. It was a major shock. And I remember just sitting there in my pajamas all day until around 3, 4 o'clock when my mum got home, just crying. So I was like, I couldn't even go toilet, mum. I don't know what I'm doing because no one's here. And I was in this false sense of reality the first 2 weeks, and reality really hit home after 2 weeks when everyone had left, and it was just me and my son. And I had to learn that I'm gonna have to actually be a mum now, and I need to I need to adapt to this. But yeah, it was crazy. There was times where I was just like, what is going on here? And strangely enough, as much as I hated work, I actually wanted to go back because at least I knew what I was doing in my job. I had control over that. Whereas being a mom, I had no idea what the following day was gonna entail.
Definitely. Wow, wow. But hey, you still got pampered the first 2 weeks. I didn't even get
Yeah, no, I
pampered.
did. But yeah, no, I did. But it was, trust me, it was amazing. But yeah, once that's taken away, it is a massive reality check. But
Mm.
I can only imagine how it must have felt like for you. And I think
It felt like
not,
torture. Can I be
yeah,
honest?
no,
Can we
and
just
not
keep it real?
and
Honestly.
not being able to express. Because I feel like I've said this to so many people. There's a difference. I feel like I can tell my mom something. If my mom is doing something that's annoying me or winding me up or something, that's your mom. You can tell her.
That's right.
But if it's not your mom, let's say it's your husband's mom or like an auntie, it's just not the same. And so you feel like you're walking on eggshells, so you can't be yourself. So I'm guessing because it's technically your mother-in-law, there's still a certain level of respect or
That's
that you
right.
have to give, especially
That's
if
right.
it's not your house. But if it's your mum's house, that's your house too. You can do what you want. I can cry if I want. I can cry out loud. I can slam a door. I can do what I
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
If I don't want to
Yeah.
wash the dishes for 2 hours, mum's not going to come and shout at me. But if it's not your mum's house, it is difficult.
Definitely. Yeah, you're right. It definitely was difficult. And because they also had like other care workers coming to look after Manly's brother. So,
Yes.
it was quite tight in space as well. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
can
it
imagine.
was difficult. But do you know what? I think that going through that experience has really helped me to be stronger as
Yeah,
a mom. And yeah, like it's really grown me as a person to know that God has us irrespective of
yeah,
the circumstance that we are placed in. He gives us so much grace to be able to overcome that circumstance so that we can move on to the next level. And I would say that he had to show me himself in the midst of that trauma that I'd gone through in the beginning of the birth of my little girl. And it helped me to know that I needed to rely on God, because if I didn't,
yeah,
I wouldn't have made it.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so yeah, so I believe every situation is a lesson for us. But like I said, I believe that it's important for us as parents to seek help when, when we are struggling. And the funny thing is that there is so much help out there, but we just don't know it, or we
Yeah,
just afraid to ask for that help.
100%. I agree with you. I think the first, the first I think it depends on your partner as well. If they're quite supportive in terms of that, I do know some partners, some people that have husbands that if they mention, I have anxiety or I'm not feeling too good today, they will just say, oh, they'll brush it off. Well, my mum raised 5 kids, and they do that comparison. But there are a lot of, let's say, millennial dads or people that are just a bit more open to understanding that when giving birth is traumatic, and being a new mum in this day and age is not the same as when our parents are cut from a different cloth. So a lot of things that they would have gone through or still been able to pick themselves up and go to work, we struggle to do that. And once that barrier is broken, that conversation can be had with your partner or your close family friends, it does then make it easier for you to seek help as well, whether it's counselling or going to your doctor and just saying, I'm just really not myself since being pregnant or finding I'm pregnant or having a baby. What options are available for me to help me go back to how I feel I should be?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right in that. Um, so now moving on to the next question. What do you love about being a mum?
Oh, what do I love? Obviously, I have a son, so everyone knows and I'm Ghanaian as well. And I know there's this narrative, there's this whole perception, Ghanaian mums and their sons.
Is that what
And their
perception is
sons,
that?
they always say that we spoil our sons, we love our sons. And you know what? It's probably true, to be fair. But yeah, no. So I've got that bond with my son. But the one thing I love is just, I feel like in life, everyone judges you, and people have the right to do so, and you're never going to be seen as perfect to anyone but the Lord, to be fair. But your children always see you as perfect, and I'm like a super mom to him. I can't do wrong, and I think for me that encourages me, and it makes me just feel so happy knowing that he loves me unconditionally. And yeah, that for me is the best part of being a mom.
I have two sons myself and a daughter, but I see the difference. I do think that there is a special bonding and
Just the
connection with,
cuddles, or
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, girl. Those cuddles, gosh, you just don't wouldn't want them to let go. Like, yeah, definitely. A mother and son's relationship is so divine. I even see it with my husband, with his parents. I mean, he's really, really close to his mum.
Yeah.
He's not close to his dad as well, but there's a really, really special connection with him and his mum. And I can relate to that now having sons myself. What was your favorite memory with your son?
Favorite memory. Definitely has to be our first joint trip to Ghana. So obviously I'm from Ghana, like I've said before, and where my family's from is really important to me. So being able to take Isaiah to Ghana when he was 1, the best memory for me. I know he probably won't remember it now, so another trip is due ASAP for him. But it was just nice to take him back home, and obviously he's only seen London, so going from London to Ghana is a massive difference, and he loved it. The space, stayed in the city, we went to the village, and he literally thrived in all environments. Like, he loved it, and I just loved seeing him enjoy our country.
That's beautiful. We have not taken our children yet abroad. We will be taking them abroad soon. The passport, funny enough, came today and yesterday, so we have no excuse.
It's a sign. The journey. So now that Isaiah's a bit older, I don't think I would do that 6-hour flight just yet because he was 1 at the time, he wasn't talking as much and he slept throughout the flight, thank God. And I think about it now, but now he's very talkative. I don't know how he will be on a 6-hour plus journey just yet. But yeah, that besides actually traveling there, when you're actually on holiday, they're the best memories, to be fair.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Is there something about Isaiah that is completely identical and opposite to you?
So identical definitely will be his personality, or parts of his personality. So if you ever see my son, everyone says he's a spitting image of his dad. So like, he looks like his dad, but what comes out of his mouth is you, Kami. This boy can talk for England, honestly.
Really?
He is such a chatterbox. He can hold a conversation with whether you're a child or a grown adult. You know, his confidence is crazy, and he definitely gets that from me 100%. And I'm happy. I love it. Obviously, it's nice to see when your 4-year-old son, you know, doesn't feel a type of way talking to an adult. You know, he's just confident in that way. So I love it. But opposite to me, so even though I'm quite loud and crazy, I don't like jokes or practical jokes. That's not who I am. But his dad is the biggest wind-up merchant in the world, and he's taken that from his dad. So, you know, my son can actually make me cry by, I wouldn't say bullying me, but he could play a prank on me to the point where I will cry because I've had enough. And that is the complete opposite to me. Him and his dad, like, gang up on me. They love a joke. They love winding me up. And that, oh gosh, I want to nip that in the bud as soon as possible, to be honest.
But it's
Yeah.
so beautiful to hear, like, the combinations of the different characteristics, traits that your son
It's crazy because we're so opposite. Me and his dad are the opposites. So then when you see our son have both our character traits, it's so crazy to see, to be honest.
Wow. You mentioned about how your son is so confident. Are there certain things that you have done in order to, add to that confidence and help him in that aspect?
Yeah, definitely a lot of the things we've done have been intentional. I think for us growing up, we've looked at certain aspects of our childhood that we've pinpointed and said, no, that wasn't right. We're not going to do that. The main thing for us, obviously, as I've been brought up, understanding who he is in terms of mum and dad loves you, but God loves you more. And it might sound really wild for anyone listening that might not be a believer or anything like that, but that's what we know, you know. And he knows that God owns the world. So if God loves you and God owns the world is also yours too. And we don't limit him in his thinking. He's very imaginative, and we what's what I'm looking for? We really encourage it. We allow him to express himself. We have conversations with him so he understands stuff. So we don't just take him out of his bed and put him in the car and take him to nursery. We take, this is what we're doing today. We're going to nursery. We conversate with him. So he has an understanding. He's not just doing things out of routine. It has its challenges because it means he's very opinionated in what he wants to do. He can be like, no, I don't want to do that. But it's just, he has an understanding. And we're just very intentional with how we talk to him, the things that we do with him, how we talk as well around him. We try not to be negative around him. And we just really try to expose him to different environments. He's the youngest in the family, to be fair, but he's around so many different age groups. And I think that's really helped him. And again, he went to nursery quite early on. So I think that has helped him really build his personality and his confidence.
That's good. That's really, really good. Well done to you, Mama. You're doing a good job.
Oh, thank you.
You're doing a good job. What advice can you give to new moms or parents to be who may had who may be suffering with some sort of like depression? You know, how can they stay positive
Yeah.
during the time that they're carrying their child, their unborn child?
So prenatal depression is a real thing, and I think people just assume about postnatal depression, so depression after having your baby. But there is prenatal depression, and then there's um so PTSD. So, for example,
Yes.
yourself, trauma from a previous pregnancy might make you feel reluctant to have another baby. And these things are common. So, I don't want anyone listening that is suffering with any of those two thinking that it's not a common thing. It is really common. And there's so much help out there. When you're pregnant and you are not in a good place, or you're feeling very challenged, the way that the system works now is, you'll go to your appointment, and whichever midwife is there will do your scan, and you have like maybe 3 or 4 appointments, and then your baby's born. But if you do highlight to your GP or to your whichever midwife it is during your first or second scan, they then will put you on a different birth plan, which means you should have. So if it's not happening, then you need to obviously inquire as to why it's not, but this is how it should be. You should be given a designated midwife that will be continuously looking after you, so you have that familiarity with someone, which does actually help in terms of feeling comfortable around someone. And they will potentially give you extra scans or extra meetings working up to your birth, just so to see how you're doing. And they should also refer you to a prenatal and postnatal sort of mother counseling group, where they'll talk you through like, why do you feel this way, so they can try and identify where the root of the anxiety or the problem is coming from. And all of this literally starts from prenatal. So when you're pregnant, once you do that, then the counseling team should follow you through to maybe up to maybe 6 months. And obviously, if you're in a good position, then you'll be discharged. If not, it can be continual. But it's all about identifying that there is a problem and being active and seeking help. I think it's so important, especially as Christians. A lot of people, I know that we have spiritual attacks and warfare and stuff like that, which is a very real thing. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes there's even God and Jesus really talk about applying wisdom, and there are professionals out there that have been gifted and God has put on this earth to help us in these situations. Not everything can be done at the altar. There's people out there that are there to help us overcome these barriers and these mental way, the way that we think that might not necessarily be in line with where God wants us to be in life. And we should really actively seek to try and be better in our way of thinking, because again, it has a role and effect on your child when your child's born.
I totally agree. One of the things that I remember doing intentionally was when I had my last born, I sought counseling
Yeah,
because we were going through quite a lot of stuff in our home, in our marriage. And I just wanted to be in a healthy place mentally. I didn't want to go through what I'd gone through with my first pregnancy. So after seeing counseling, I just began to see things from a positive perspective. And it
yeah,
really helped my mental well being, just talking about certain issues that was festering in my heart that I really needed to release. And she made me feel safe. The lady
yeah,
that was my counselor, she made me feel safe. I didn't feel judgmental, and she made me understand why I'm thinking a certain way. And it really, really helped. I would say it was very therapeutic, but also a healing season for me whilst I was pregnant with my
100%.
third born. And another thing that I intentionally did was that I was also exercising. I found that going to Pilates, prenatal Pilates,
Yeah,
that was so good. I loved it. I went till the end of my pregnancy, I think
which is really,
39
they encourage
weeks.
it a lot. Wow.
Yeah, 39 weeks. Yeah, I was heavily pregnant and people were like, are you going to come now? Is the baby going to come now? Like, no, I'm still going. But there was just like a boost of energy within me going through, I mean, going to the Pilates class. And I think it's important for us as, expectant moms to do some sort of exercise because it really helps with your body and also your mental well-being.
Yeah.
Did you do any exercise whilst being pregnant
So
or?
anyone that's listening that knows me will know I am a very, when it comes to exercise, that's my area of like, I've got a big X on. But I do know for many people, in terms of scientifically, it does produce toxins that are really good for your
Yeah.
body to get your mind in a really good place. I just I'm just not that person, but I do know it is something, definitely, whether it's going for walks, whether it
Yeah.
is finding a hobby that encourages you to go out and meet other people and be active. I definitely would recommend it. A lot of my friends will, again, going to the gym, working out during their pregnancy, and they've always said it works really well for them. But I didn't do it, so I'm not going to sit here and say I did. But I definitely know that it's something that works. And one thing I do want to say as well is aligning yourself with people that you want to aspire to be or look like the new you. And I say that because I was the first person in my group of friends really to have a baby. And the reason if I found it really hard to let go of my old life is because I didn't have anyone or other mums around me that was showing me what being a mum could look like and the benefits of that. So all I can see was my friends that don't have kids having fun. So that's why it was very hard for me to let go or not resent the fact that I am a mum. So once you're pregnant, maybe take advantage of the mum groups, so you're meeting people that are giving birth around the same time as you, and try and connect, because that way, you're now, that is your new, I'll say new norm, but you're now around a different environment that's going to help you really try to excel in your new life, because being a mum is a new life, and it is basically a death to the old one in terms of certain aspects you're not going to get again. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're constantly around people that are in your old life and that don't look anything like your new life, it's going to be a battle.
That's so true. Absolutely. Yeah, you hit it on the nail there. Very, very true. I had the privilege, to be honest with you, to be around mums based on the area that we live in. And
Yeah.
even her nursery, my little girl's nursery, they were extremely supportive towards us. And I agree with you that aligning yourself with people who are in the same situation or in the same season as you helps,
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
without a doubt. And yeah, we enjoyed our baby classes. I miss it now.
I know they grow up so fast, don't they? And obviously, like I said, I work full time, and then I do, doing the stuff on the side as well. There doesn't seem like there's any time to do anything, but it has to be intentional making that time, because you build friendships. Like, so thankful that I met you in church, and
Yeah.
that was an opportunity. Again, for those that are listening that are believers, going to church when we're allowed to go back to church, for me, that is enjoyment. And it's little things like that you need to find a hobby or something that interests you, and be purposeful in it, whether it's watching a show same time every week, but something for yourself that you keep for yourself that makes you happy. Being a
Yeah.
mum is not I know it's a 24-hour job in terms of you love your kids 24/7, but your kids will grow up one day, and if you haven't done anything with your life in that time, you're going to feel lost when that time comes and they go off to uni or they marry and they leave the house. So it's really important in remembering that you also need to have a life as well for yourself.
Definitely. Definitely. How do you make time as a mom for yourself?
So any opportunity, and everyone will testify for this. Toilet, that's number one. Making time for yourself. If your child doesn't try to barge the door open, but I think, again, having a supportive family that will let you know in advance. Oh, I can have Isaiah for this weekend. Then I'm making sure I'm utilizing that weekend for myself. And I think asking for help, there is nothing wrong for asking for help. I think as mums, we don't like the word no, but no is a normal word that if someone can't help you out, they can't help you out. But there will be a time that they can say yes. And planning your days around those times that someone can watch your child. And if you've got a partner or a husband at home, letting them know, you know, I need an hour or I need 2 hours to myself in a room. Please, can you support me in that? And that's something that my partner's been really, really good with. So that's, again, something that's what allows me to make time for myself, whether it's that time I use it to edit the podcast or do X, Y, and Z. You know, it's time that I'm just not being a mum. And I think that's so important just for headspace and just to clear my head.
But I hear you about that toilet. lock the door.
Oh gosh, literally lock the door.
Gosh,
Just
the
sit on the
toilet is
seat.
like
I'm
a
not be
saver.
doing anything on there, but I just need that time to myself.
My one is showers. I don't like anyone disturbing when I could stay in the shower for like 45 minutes. And my husband's thinking, what are you doing? I'm like, this is my time. Let me enjoy, please.
I'm laughing so much because that is what I do as well. Literally, I put my music on so loud so I can't hear any screaming or mummy, I can't hear it. And I've got the shower on and I just ignore everything. I'm just like, this is my time.
I love that. So do you have like any like future plans for you and your family that you are looking forward to?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I've always said I want to have 3 kids. So, you know, we've got another 2 to come.
3.
When that will be.
Girl, don't worry. I'll give you the gist of what it is to look up to 3 children.
When that time comes, obviously God's time will be perfect. But yeah, for us, it's just, you know, like I said, I've always wanted to be successful and build like wealth and really like set a marker for my children and children's children. So that's definitely something that me and my partner is on the forefront of our heads right now. And in that, obviously, with more children come, then it's a blessing. But that's sort of what we're trying to do now, just build a really good foundation for the next generation or our next generation.
Kami, how can people stay connected to you or find you?
Definitely on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook. Just social media is too much for me. So Instagram is enough. So they can find me at Kami_Arkorful. So that's Kami, KAMI_Arkorful, ARKOR, F for Freddy, UL. Or they can follow my podcast page, which is at Mummy and Mind, all one word. Podcast is available again on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms. And on my personal Instagram, you know, there's a lot about me on there if you need to get in contact with me, especially regarding the fashion agency as well. If you're based in Ghana or looking to do sort of any fashion related work in Ghana, please get in contact with me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kami. Thank you for listening. I hope that you were encouraged. Please do share this with your friends or family and do come back for next week's episode. Bye for now.